I saw a man proudly admitting to arson in court. What happened next? I was working as a court reporter during what seemed like a straightforward arson trial. The defendant, a middle-aged man named Robert, was accused of deliberately setting fire to his own restaurant. The prosecution presented evidence, footage of Robert entering the restaurant at 2, receipts for 5 gallons of gasoline, and partner testimony about his talks of leaving amid financial woes and raised insurance implying a bid for payout. Throughout the presentation of evidence, Robert sat calmly beside his attorney, occasionally whispering something, but mostly maintaining this strange, almost confident smile. When it was the defense's turn, Robert's attorney called him to the stand. The first question shocked everyone in the courtroom. "Mr. Roberts, did you set fire to your restaurant on the night of June 15th? Without hesitation, Robert leaned into the microphone and said, "Yes, I did." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. The judge looked stunned, and the prosecutor actually pumped his fist, thinking he'd just won the case. But then Robert's attorney asked, "Can you explain why you set the fire?" Robert nodded and said, "3 days before the fire, I was closing up when I discovered black mold throughout the entire kitchen wall. It was extensive, dangerous, and behind all the major appliances. I called a specialist who confirmed it was Stachybotrys, an extremely toxic black mold that can cause severe respiratory issues. He said the entire restaurant needed to be shut down immediately for public safety." Robert continued, "I contacted the health department right away. I have the documentation here. They confirmed the danger, but said their official inspection couldn't happen until the following week. I couldn't legally operate with known toxic mold, but I also couldn't afford to close for a week with no income. I had 20 employees who depend on their paychecks." The courtroom was completely silent as he explained, "I made sure the building was completely empty. I disconnected the gas lines. I created a controlled burn focused solely on the affected area to neutralize the mold spores before they could spread to neighboring businesses. I personally called the fire department before lighting anything, explaining exactly what I was doing and why. I have the phone records and the recording of that call." His attorney then produced official documentation from the fire chief confirming that Robert had indeed called in advance, explaining his intentions and the public health emergency. The attorney also presented the health department's subsequent report confirming the presence of dangerous black mold. "Mr. Roberts," his attorney asked, "did you file an insurance claim after the fire?" Robert shook his head. "No, sir. I specifically called my insurance company the next day to inform them I would not be filing a claim, as this was an emergency measure I took myself. I've been paying for the repairs out of my own pocket." The prosecutor was frantically flipping through his papers, clearly caught completely off guard. Robert's attorney then called the fire chief, who testified that while unconventional, Robert's actions had actually prevented what could have been a much more dangerous situation had the mold continued to spread unaddressed. He confirmed that Robert had followed proper safety protocols within the constraints of an emergency situation. The health inspector testified next, confirming that the type of mold found was indeed an immediate public health threat. By the end of the day, the judge dismissed all charges, stating that while he didn't recommend anyone take such matters into their own hands, Robert had acted responsibly within an emergency situation with public safety as his primary concern. As Robert walked free, I overheard the prosecutor muttering to his assistant, "Next time, maybe we should ask why before we charge someone with arson." The case taught me that sometimes what looks like a crime on the surface might have an entirely reasonable explanation underneath.